And a very, very good evening to everybody. Thank you all so much for coming, as ever. And tonight, it's it always is, but tonight it seems particularly a very, very exciting lineup that has been put together. We have got Gemma Khawaja, who has been with us in the past. She contributed to the Harry Cox and Sam Lana event, and she's back and has got lots of interesting things to say about herself, and we'll hear some lovely music from her. But before that, I spent yesterday talking to this gentleman and was bowled over, I have to tell you, by what his life has been in folk music. It's something I would never have guessed. So Terry St Clair, let's say good evening to you.
How are you?
Very well indeed. And that's the first thing I want to point out to everybody. I've been saying over the last 48 hours how envious I am. Here we are, beautiful weather and everything else. And there's Terry, and he's sitting on his boat with, is it the Thames in the background, would it be?
No, it's not. It's the lake. It's the lake. We're off the Grand Union Canal, West London, but it's a lake. We're not far from the Thames.
Well, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm green with envy. Let's go on to things that people are much more interested in. And Terry, we've got some songs that you have chosen for us for this evening, and you are a songwriter. I'm right in saying?
I am. I do write songs. Yeah, I'm not prolific, but I wish I was.
Well, of those then that you've been kind enough to let us have for this evening, which are the ones that you've written?
Well, I think you've got Different World and
yes.
And The Merchant's Daughter.
So the first, I think that, well, I know because it's written down here. The first I've got is As I Rode Out, a traditional style love song that I couldn't quite get the story for. So maybe you can help me with that.
Actually, I roved out, I believe. Is there perhaps a spelling mistake there? It's a traditional Irish song. I think it's Irish, although it's been played all over the United Kingdom, and there's a version in parts of Europe as well. But it's I would assume it's got to be 300 years old because it refers to the Queen's army in the West Indies, America, and Spain. And I think I worked it out. I'm a bit of a geek, a history geek, and I worked it out that the only time in our history where the Queen, where we had armies in those three countries, was during Queen Anne's reign, which was, I believe, the early part of the 19th century. So it would be. Hang on a minute, let me get this right. Sorry, 1700 something, 1700 to 1713 or something like that. Anyway, and it's about loss. It's about deserting your beloved to marry into money. I think it's
been done before.
It's going off to the army. Yes, it's going off, join the army. And I'm not sure where it says marry the lady that has the land, whether it's actually saying that that's the Queen. In other words, it's gone off to fight for Queen and country. I'm not sure.
That's what I worked it out. Yeah, that's where I thought it was going to. But it's a great song, and it's one of these great traditional songs. So let's hear it now.
As I rode out on a bright May morning to view the meadows and flowers gay, whom should I spy but my own true lover? She sat under a young willow tree. Took off my hat and I did salute her. I did salute her most courageously. But she turned around and the tears fell from her. Said, false young man, you have deluded me. A diamond ring I owned, I gave you. A diamond ring to wear on your right hand. The vows you made, love, you went and broke them, and married the lassie that had the land. If I marry the lassie that had the land, my love, is that our route till the day I die? When misfortune calls, no man can shun it. I was blindfolded, I'll never deny. And at night when I go to my bed of slumber, the thought of my true love runs through my mind. I turn around to embrace my darling. Instead of gold, it's brass I find. And I wish that the Queen would call home her army from the West Indies, America and Spain, and every man to his wedded woman, in hopes that you and I could meet again.
Thank you very much, Terry. That was lovely. And as we've remarked more than once, it's a classic traditional song that we, I think, in the folk genre fall back on, perhaps not quite enough as we should. Right. I mentioned right at the very beginning that I was thrilled to bits with the conversation which we had yesterday. And that told me that you have been 38 years a busker.
I have.
There can't be many people who are able to claim being 38 years a busker, but you are.
Dear.
Come on, you got to tell us about that.
You know, actually, I was in a bookshop. I was just a few years ago, and I picked this up. I thought that's interesting. It says English buskers, including Eric Clapton, Elvis Costello, Eddie Izzard, Bill Bailey, Ralph McTell. And then I couldn't believe it. Who's this guy? Terry St Clair. He says, I found in the same book.
Absolutely justified.
It was a strange purchase because I didn't expect it. I just thought that's interesting. I'll buy that book. English buskers.
Is there a connection? Sorry, I talked over you. It's very easy to do on these sorts of things, particularly when you're excited, as I am this evening. But tell me, is there a connection, more of a connection, perhaps, between folk music and busking than perhaps there is other sorts, or actually does all music get to people? And getting to people on the streets, really. I
think busking is. I mean, sorry. I think busking is a natural stage for folk music. But then again, what is folk music? That's another debate. You know, I think it's probably more natural playing folk songs on a street or to a street audience than it is in a folk club, because folk clubs are a modern genre. It's something that's happened since the 1950s or 60s. Whereas troubadours have been playing in village squares and town centres for hundreds of years. So I maybe I'm being a bit pretentious there, but I feel it's quite a normal place to sing songs. But if I was singing I think a folk song, you know, if you're at Glastonbury and there are 10,000 people singing along to Coldplay, that's folk music. They're joining in and they're singing along, enjoying every moment of it. So
no,
I think
this whole debate about what is folk music just goes on and on and round, and there is no answer to it. So I think
Pete Singer's had a great said. He said never when asked about it, and he said, "Well, I've never seen a horse sing." And so I think that's quite good.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to move on to a second song. We're going to come back to this busking again. Different World. Was that one you said that you wrote?
I did write it, yeah.
Yes, I thought.
It's one of those songs that that sort of came very quickly in the middle. Well, before I went to bed, and then I stayed up till about 4 o'clock finishing it off. I remember doing that. But I think some songs come so quickly. Others take years to write. That was a quick one.
And I'm not sure that the ones that take years to write are ever any better.
I don't think there's a rule at all. I think it just worked with the way it is, you know.
Yeah.
I think Paul McCartney said he woke up and he got this song in his head, and he couldn't believe he'd written it. And it's a working title called Scrambled Eggs, which was yesterday. And he asked all the other Beatles, you know, where's this song come from? And they said, well, we don't know. He must have written it. And it was very quick again, but one of them, simple song, but very clever, and probably the most selling, one of the most recorded songs ever.
Yeah. So if you get it right, you get it right.
I'm not comparing with Different World with Yesterday or Paul McCartney.
Oh, perhaps that is rational. But on the other hand, Different World is a great song.
Thank you.
And people will hear reference to Crowded Streets, and that takes me back to busking again, which... Anyway, here we go. Let's listen to Different World.
I met someone from a different world, so very far away. She seemed to come and go so fast. I miss her to this day. A smile can melt the frozen hearts and light the darkest nights. But now she's gone back to her world and turned out the lights. Her hair was of the finest silk, her eyes a perfect blue, and she came from a different world that I never knew. She came around to say hello. We stood and talked a while. You should have heard us laugh that day. It still makes me smile. She asked me for such little time, and what little time I had. But it was never long enough, and that makes me sad. I didn't know what I had lost, but now it's very plain, because I'll never know the world from where she came. And on a busy London street, laid bare before my eyes, it was in one brief moment that love materialized. And then she called to say goodbye, while my heart sank to the floor, and all the words that I left unsaid were lost forevermore. And on that crowded London street, I found myself alone, and I knew it was a different world from the one we'd known. I met someone from a different world, so very far away. She seemed to come and go so fast, I miss her to this day. A smile can melt the frozen hearts and light the darkest nights. But now she's gone back to her world and turned out the lights. Her hair was of the finest silk, her eyes a perfect blue, and she came from a different world that I never knew.
Going to take us back again, Terry, if I can, to this busking, because I just love the connection. But it's not just busking anywhere. It's in Covent Garden, of all places, which took you to lots of other opportunities, I think.
It did. I mean, I'd been performing in the folk clubs during the 70s, and it was, I mean, the folk thing had almost faded out. I mean, most of the British folk singers were working in Scandinavia and Germany because the folk revival came in later over there. So there was the gigs were drying up, and I thought, oh, I'll try my hand in Covent Garden because they just recently opened it as it is today, which had been restored and put into a sort of a shopping area for Londoners and tourists alike, and it was a lovely area, and they'd allowed street performing there. So I thought, try my hand. I thought this is going to be easy. I didn't realise how difficult it was, but and it was difficult.
But tell us, you mentioned in a conversation we had before your opportunities. I think that it took you maybe directly or indirectly to songs in films and street theatre and all of these wonderful things.
It was a great platform because Covent Garden had become very, very popular in the media and well known around the world, and everybody wanted people that performed in Covent Garden. So, a lot of people were phoning us up saying, well, can you do this festival? Can you play this festival? Oh, we're doing this TV show. Can you come on there? So, and then, somebody walked through, a film director like Mike Binder, walking through a Hollywood director, and I got an email saying, can you use one of my songs in the film Kevin Costner movie? All sort of things like that. I remember we were performing at the opening of is it Canary Wharf? When they opened that whole area, and we were sent down there to perform the Queen's 60th birthday party in Covent Garden.
I mean, not everyone can say that, and you certainly don't get those opportunities sitting in your home studio, do you, day in, day out?
No, you don't.
Spending 3 years writing a song.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not that I knock that for a minute. If that's what does it for you, carry on with it. But
absolutely, yeah. Oh, just very lucky. It was just the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great performers came out that I've worked with, doing with my relationship with Covent Garden. I mean, Eddie Izzard started off in Covent Garden, and Sue. Oh, there's quite a lot of people. Too many to mention.
Well, it's I'm sure not just in the right place at the right time. There's a little bit about having some talent as well. Let's hear a bit more of talent. So the next song is January Man. People will know Dave Golder, who, thank you, by the way, for including that, because I didn't really know much about Dave Golder. And having just checked him out on Wikipedia, I am blown away by what he does. And I can't understand that there's anything he doesn't do. Did you meet him?
No, never met him. I saw him play live at the folk club once, I think. But I loved the songs. I loved the January Man. I think he wrote Punch and Judy Man. There's some great songs he's written.
For those people, sorry, do carry on.
No, I was thinking of people like Tony Capstick, who was a great folk. He's sadly gone now, but great folk singer and comedian, very funny man. He used to sing quite a few Dave Golder songs, and that's how I got to know the songs. But I remember Martin Carthy's version of the January Man, which was the first time I'd heard it, which really inspired me.
Yeah. What? Just very, very briefly, not really for those who are hanging on your every word. Forgive me for this, but I didn't know that you could mix dry stone walling, of which he's a master craftsman,
Apparently, yes,
and folk music,
Yeah.
and he's got a 30-year-old motorbike which he takes out regularly, and he's in his 80s, and he does mountaineering, and anyway, we'll have some more.
There's a real story.
No, you protest F too much. January man.
The January man, he walks the road in woolen coat, boots of leather. The February man still wipes the snow from off his head and blows his hands. The man of March, he sees the spring, wonders what the year will bring, hopes for better weather. Through April rains, the man goes down to watch the birds come in, share the summer. The man of May stands very still, watching the children dance away the day. In June, the man inside, the man is young and wants to lend a hand, grins at each newcomer. And in July, the man in cotton shirt, he sits and thinks of being idle. The August man in thousands takes the road down to the sea to find the sun. September man is standing near to saddle up and lead the year, and autumn is his bridle. The man of New October takes the rein, an early mist upon his shoulder. The poor November man steers fire and mist and wind and rain and winter chills. December man looks through the snow to let 11 brothers know they're all a little older. And the January man comes round again in woolen coat and boots of leather to take another turn and walk along the icy road he knows so well. The January man is here for starting each and every year along the road forever.
And that was lovely. Thank you so much. So we're going to finish. It's a shame we have to finish. We're going to finish with one of your own, Merchant's Daughter. And that, like the last, it was recorded outside, but I can place where the January Man was recorded. Merchant's Daughter, I can't place. Can you tell us where we're going to see you?
It's Waverley Abbey, which is in Surrey, not far from where we are actually. And it was we set off. I'm trying to find new. I tried to record videos. I do a weekly concert online at the moment, all through the COVID period, and to sort of just remind everybody that I'm still alive. I put a. You understand why if you watch the Sunday show, which is 3 p.m. UK time every Sunday, I play in front of a tree, and some of my friends here on the marina planted a sign which says Terry St Clair, Terry's tree, and I have to explain to people that my ashes are not there under that tree
yet.
It's just no. I'm here live. Pinch me, I hurt. So we like occasionally, we drive out and do a video to sort of promote it. And we did this one. I just Waverley Abbey, which is Waverley in Surrey, and it's a beautiful old, as you can see. And unfortunately, it rained on the day. It was spitting with rain, and I didn't want to get my guitar wet for a start, and all the equipment. So there was a little bit undercover. It doesn't look like it's rainy, but it was a bit wet. But a lovely day, Steve. We enjoyed it anyway. It's great.
So it takes, as I say, it takes us outside. It takes us back perhaps to the subject of connecting outside with the arts and with people. All of these things in my mind right now, chatting to you, all come together, and an Abbey setting couldn't be more appropriate, really. To hear your own composition performed there, and on a day where it's just we're all getting out again. I think the whole thing is so resonant, and it explores your 38 years, was I?
Oh, yeah.
Of busking.
Man and boy.
Yeah, well, I think it all tops it off beautifully, and you've got many, many more years of doing it. So look, thanks, Terry, enormously. We've loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you.
So exciting to do. And we will hear Merchant's Daughter.
My name is Charlotte Spencer, I'll tell you of my name. I met a man from London town, and pimpin' was his game. He brought me here to marry him, but that was not to be. He sold me for £500 and a life of misery. I am a North of England girl from a merchant family. My father kept his purse strings tight, I had no dowry. Jack Harris, he came calling, I thought a gentleman. He was a mean and wicked soul to lead me where I am. When we arrived in London town, a marriage did take place. When I woke next morning, he had a different face. The man who did lie next to me was not the one I'd wed. He changed places with Lord Spencer, who lay upon my bed. There was no one I could turn to, I did accept my fate. This Lord, he soon did tire of me, and I had all he hates. The only future left for me was in a life of sin. My family have disowned me now, I can't return again. So come all you fair and tender girls, I won't intake by me. If Jack Harris, he comes calling, don't give him company. He'll bring you down to London town and tell you many lies, then sell you to a life of shame, all for the highest price. My name is Charlotte Spencer, I'll tell you of my babe. I met a man from London town, and pimpin' was his game. He brought me here to marry him, but that was not to be. He sold me for £500 and a life of misery.
Terry, thank you so very much. That was brilliant. And we look forward to catching up with you again. And now, I'm not going to say something completely different. It's something equally brilliant.
Hey, Tom, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And how are you?
I'm good. I'm well, thanks, Tom.
Good. You've been with us before.
Yes.
And we had the great pleasure of hearing you performing in a special which we did, which was Sam Larner, Harry Cox, that supported an awful lot of work that Bruce Lindsay did, and we thoroughly enjoyed seeing you then. And now we've got you to ourselves this evening, so that's even better. Strong voice, great guitarist, songwriter.
Ish, sometimes when I have the time.
Well, time is something we'll come on to, because a puppeteer is one of the very interesting aspects of your life. And I'm going to be really fascinated to see the connection between folk music and puppeteering. It all seems to be this wonderful sort of artisan lifestyle. Let's have a listen now to the first of your songs, Polyvorn. And yeah, let me let you perhaps introduce what Polyvorn is.
Okay, so Polyvorn is it's quite a traditional ballad. There's lots of different versions of this by various names, but the story is essentially the same. It's the story of a guy mistaking his true love for a swan and shooting her. But there's a lot of sort of history. There's all these ideas about animal transformation within ballads and things. And I just really like this song. I sing a few different versions of this, actually. I do an unaccompanied version as well, but this is probably one of the first versions of this this particular song that I heard. And I think Anne Briggs was probably the singer that I first heard singing it to this tune. This is my own arrangement, but the tune that I use for this and the kind of basic verse structure is very much based on that version that I heard by Anne Briggs.
Wonderful. We shall look forward to hearing it very much. Seems we've got all the ingredients that folk music should have. Here we go.
Come all ye young fellas that handle a gun, beware you shoot when the night's coming on. Johnny Randall met his true love, he mistook her for a swan, so he shot her and killed her by the setting of the sun. For Polly was walking in a shower of rain, took shelter in the green bush, her beauty to save, with her apron thrown over. Johnny took her for a swan, so he shot her and killed her by the setting of the sun. Then home rushed young Johnny with his dog and his gun, crying, "Uncle, dear uncle, have you heard what I've done? Oh, curse be you, gunsmith, that made my old gun, for I shot my own true love, 'cause I thought she was a swan." Then out rushed his uncle with his locks hanging grey, crying, "Johnny, oh Johnny, don't you run away, don't you leave your own country before the trial do come, 'cause they never would hang you for the shooting of a swan." Well, the trial came on, and Polly they're all glad we know to see Polyvorn brought down so low. But you could take all those girls, you could plant them in a row, and a beauty would outshine them like a fountain of snow.
The strength of your voice is gorgeous. So how did you get into folk music? There seems to be a little bit of perhaps classical coaching in the back there somewhere, from what I was hearing.
No, there's not any class. I've never had any classical training. I mean, I did do a drama degree, so there was voice class there, but I was a bit of a rubbish student, and I often used to bump off voice class. I'll just be honest about it. And I did. There was a lovely singing teacher called Bruce, but I just really kind of resisted that thing about having your voice trained. I never wanted to speak in received pronunciation, and I also never wanted to kind of sing in a kind of la la la, you know, that kind of way. So I always sort of resisted that. But I probably have a strong voice though from using my voice a lot. But I think my main introduction to folk music and things, and just to singing in general, was really as a kid. My mum just used to play her records and sing out loud to them. And I think, you know, all my older siblings were at school. It'd be just me. I maybe would have just been at nursery or something in the morning, home for the afternoon. And I think my mum it used to be her sort of time, you know, totally unself-conscious, where she, you know, how we all do when nobody's around, you put your records on and you kind of rock out to them. And my mum used to just sing out really loud. And so I think, because as a young kid, I think I just thought that was totally normal. But as you get older, you realise that actually a lot of people are quite sort of repressed about singing, or, you know, so certainly when I got to school and in assemblies, I remember when we used to sing in assembly, all the kids would kind of be like, and mutter the words, whereas I'd be like,
I know exactly what you mean.
Sing out really loud, and then, you know, then everybody thinks that's a bit weird. But I think it was, you know, basically from my mum playing a record
What a
and stuff.
happy accident for us.
Yeah, but
It's lovely to listen to.
Thank you. I mean, with regards to folk music, the English traditional stuff of the British Isles that I'm really into now, that was a sort of relatively late discovery. But weirdly, I probably sang my first trad, you know, UK folk song when I was quite young, because my mum used to play Joan Baez, who's an American singer. But at the time, I wasn't differentiating between, you know, Joan Baez's covers of a Bob Dylan or a Donovan song and her singing something like Trees Grow High or Geordie, or, you know, a really sort of English staple song. But I was singing all of those when I was probably about, I don't know, from 12 onwards. So again, that kind of influence, I think they're the things that sort of develop you.
I just wonder how many young girls at 12 are going around singing Joan Baez. I love the idea of it. I think it's great.
It's just because that's what my mum was playing at the time, and I didn't, you know, I didn't sort of think it was. But also, I was probably, you know, just learning the guitar, doing covers of whatever kids at school were listening to, whatever I was listening to in the sort of kind of late 80s, early 90s and things. So
Coldplay's Loss and Our Gain. Great. Tell us about the second song that we're going to hear from you. You're playing an instrument which I don't recognise. Now, tell me about that.
Okay, so I'm going to sing a song called The May Morning Dew, which is, I always sort of think it's from the Irish tradition, mainly because there's so many Irish singers that sing this song. And I learnt it from the singing of Dolores Keane, who's a fantastic Irish singer. The instrument that I'm playing to accompany myself is a thing called a shruti box. And it basically, it has all the sort of keys of a, you know, piano keyboard on it, but you just open one or two or maybe three holes and you play a chord. So it makes like a drone sound. And I think on that particular song, I'm just using two notes to make a sort of simple drone chord. And I do that just because it feels like it supports the singing. So, I mean, it's quite easy when you're singing in an accompanied song to slide out of key gradually. So I think I sometimes, will slide down a bit. It's not, not too perceptible. But, if you start at the beginning and went to the end, you might notice a little key shift. But the Shruti box will help keep you in key. And I just think with that particular song, it just adds something to it. It's a song about kind of loss and longing and nostalgia for the past. So I think that drone sound is quite haunting.
Yeah. Well, I think what I'll do is I will get some details on it and stick it on the website, because I've not come across one before. And I absolutely agree with you. I think that there's a smashing droney kind of really appropriate accompaniment.
There's quite a few singers use them. I think it's just something, because a lot of people use kind of like, like a harmonium or something like that, but they're obviously quite an expensive bit of kit, a harmonium with a proper full keyboard.
Yeah.
And again, they're from the Indian tradition is the sort of strange thing, but they seem to really lend themselves to folk. And I know quite a few singers who seem to use the sort of Shruti box as a kind of thing to underpin what would normally maybe be a strong unaccompanied song.
Well, if there's others listening who are as ignorant as I am, then it'll be on the website in the morning, and you can follow it up from there. Okay, we'll hear it.
Oh, my dear Dennis.
We can't let you get through this discussion without a little bit of an insight into your other career of puppeteering. And tell us about how the two connect, if they connect at all. But tell us a bit about puppeteering and you anyway.
Yeah, so puppetry has been my main vocation really for nearly 20 years really. I did a drama degree at UEA, graduated in 2001, and then I went straight to Norwich Puppet Theatre to do City and Guild's making courses in traditional puppet making. And at that point I'd kind of gone off drama and performing quite a lot, and I thought I'd get into making because I'd always been interested in making. But through doing that course, meeting other freelance makers and puppeteers who were working there, it just kind of changed my life really. And I realized that puppetry was a medium that did encompass all of my skills. So I was always a bit interested in drama and performing, a bit interested in singing, a bit interested in making stuff. And here suddenly was a medium that, you could do all of those things. Because I think for some reason I found a bit at university and through school and things. I think things are kind of, always evolving and different, but I always just felt, I don't know what it is, maybe it's just in my own head, but this kind of pressure in the world that you have to just do one thing and stick to it. You're not allowed to just sort of have multiple strands or multiple skills. And so I'd always felt like I never quite sort of fit anywhere. So that was like a real discovery, the world of puppetry. And since 2001, I've just been sort of plugging away at it. And certainly the 15 years prior to lockdown, I'd been fully freelance working in the arts. As a puppeteer touring for other people. In terms of does it connect with my folk music, I suppose the answer is not yet. But I'd like to fuse the two together. I mean, I'd sort of I think sort of going, I don't know whether it is coming from that mindset of feeling like you've got to just pick one
Well,
thing.
listen, I'm going to stop you in full flow and ambush you, because what I want people who are listening tonight to do, and to when they play it later on, maybe in the next week or two, email us, contact Homestage at the website and say, get Gemma to bring together a puppet folk event. So we want puppets and folk music connected. I mean, it's beautiful listening, really great listening to your kind of creative outpourings. These are just lovely experiences to sit here and have wash all over me. I'm so enjoying it. When we spoke before, there was great energy. In fact, I wrote down, what did I actually write down when we had a chat before? Energy and personable, really nice. That's what I wrote down, and I think that would come through in a kind of connection of creative stuff that's puppets and folk music. Anyway, that's enough of me talking. But people have got to write in, and then I'll send them all to you, and with a bit of luck, we'll get you doing it.
Well, I hope that's where I'm heading. I mean, it's interesting because, as I say, I've been really focused on my puppetry career. I mean, you've got to. This is the thing, if you want to work in the arts and things, you have to make a living. You have to keep the roof over your head. So I'd been really focused on my puppet work because that was where the income was coming from. And then my music gigs and things were just always a bit of a sideline, and still are really in a way. I think I said to you before, I sing a lot in the puppet shows I'm in, but I'd never really brought the folk music into it. But slowly, I think I've got to that point in my life now where I am, the skills and things that I'd had that have been I'd kept quite separate and were quite disparate. So I online, I've got my kind of, this is my music, and here I am as a musician. And then I've got, here is my artwork and my paper cuts, and here is my puppetry stuff. But I'm just slowly starting to bring them all together and just being like, well, actually, here am I, and these are these things that I do. And I do all of them. So deal with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about you.
Yeah. And I've got, now I'm definitely really sort of, I think lockdown has brought on a new sort of flare of creativity because of it halting my normal work. And I've had to get a temporary delivery driver job. But then my creativity has been bursting out in other ways.
Quick plug for Argos.
Yes, thank you, Argos, for keeping a roof over my head for the last year and a bit. It's kind of a rude awakening for me going back to not being a freelancer again, because when you're a freelancer, it's quite a different world to that kind of world of the regular paycheck and things. But it's been, it's been good. And I'm just at the point now where my puppetry work is coming back and the music work is coming back. So I need to sort of kind of decrease Argos and increase the freelance work again, which is happening. But as I say, the good thing about lockdown is, so going into that world where I wasn't doing something creative for a living, it suddenly made my creativity burst out in different ways. And now all these ideas for fusing folk music and puppetry are slowly coming together. It takes kind of time and energy, but I'm getting there.
We shall look forward to it. We shall look forward to it. We've got to hear another song. And I'm having to look because I can't remember what it was. Now I can. Flandyke Shore. Tell us a little about that.
Okay, well, this is a song that I really love, and my arrangement I learned from the singing of Nick Jones. He does a couple of different versions of it. There's one that he calls the Flanders Shore, which I think he does on, I think it's on his Penguin Eggs album, and my friend Tony Hall plays on that. So Tony Hall lives locally, wonderful melodeon player and artist who maybe should also be on home stage if you can get him to overcome the technical gremlins.
I went on to my lost chamber window, where I had often been before, just to let her know unto the Flandyke shore, unto the Flandyke shore, never to return to old England no more. I went on to my lost chamber door, where I had never been before. There I saw a light springing from her clothes, springing from her clothes, just as the morning sun when first arose, just as the morning sun when first arose. As I was walking on the Flandyke shore, her own dear father I did meet. My daughter, she is dead, he cried. She is dead, he cried, but she's broken her heart all for the love of thee.
going to do what Paul doesn't want me to do. Paul, by the way, for those that don't know, is the guy that runs the studio. So we're not supposed to clap, but I'm going to because I enjoyed that very much indeed. Time's getting on. We haven't got too much more. And there's another song that I very much want to get people to listen to. But, you know, Gemma, the whole point of this Tuesday Folk People thing is not just to bring to an audience what you can go and find for yourself on YouTube. The point is kind of perhaps the clues in the name, Tuesday Folk People, and you've really filled that that role so well for us. It's a real pleasure to meet gosh, how can I say this without sounding condescending? It's just a real pleasure to know that what we've got with you is the real deal, and there is a complete kind of, you're like a sponge when it comes to the arts, and it comes out again. What goes in is coming out, and I feel it all over, and it's really lovely. So
thank you, Tom.
well, no, we want to thank you because, you know, that this combination, we haven't had the time to talk about. I think you do some paper cutting, and so the puppeteering we've just touched on, folk music we've touched on, a true artist. So thank you so very much. Tell us about your last number, which is Dark Eyed Molly, song I love.
Yeah, so I think so mainly my sort of preferred songs is I love doing arrangements of traditional songs and kind of old songs, mysterious songs, you know, that kind of thing. Occasionally write my own, but not very often. And if I do write my own, they're very much based on other things or drawing from other existent tunes or traditions. But one thing I just think is really great is that there is a whole generation of, you know, people within folk music, traditional singers, who do write their own material, and that often it's drawing on the tradition and it's really rooted and it's really, you know, really inspiring stuff. And so Archie Fisher is one of those people. And so I wanted to do an Archie Fisher song, and the one I've chosen is Dark Eyed Molly. And part of the reason I chose it is it was a song that I often used to hear in sessions. And for probably quite a few years, I think I did actually think it was a traditional song. And when I eventually looked it up, then I realized, oh, no, it's not. It's an Archie Fisher song. And he's written it in the style of, you know, the tradition, drawing on those, the kind of imagery or the stories or, you know, whatever you get in the tradition, whether it's about a particular character or expressing an emotion or something. And so I just wanted to cover one of his songs because it's just a real joy when you do come across somebody within the kind of folk music world who does write their own material, but it's very rooted in this way. So, yeah.
And do you know what's also coming through is the connection. So we are getting your kind of emotional connection coming over this evening, and so you're sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, Dark Eyed Molly is just such a lovely song, and it, you know, it's a very quite short at 4 verses, so, you know, short for a folk song, that is. But it's I just love it. I think it's just one of those songs, it really has clear pictures. You get a sense of the characters in the song and all of that kind of thing. So I think when I sing the song, I kind of feel all of that. It's not so much that I imagine I'm in it, it's more, I don't know, you sort of feel it all. You think about the characters and the pictures that are created in the song, and whilst you're performing it, you kind of live that a little bit, which is, I suppose that is, you know, why I enjoy performing trad folk songs or songs that are written based on the tradition kind of thing, because there's just it is about the storytelling, or there's something captivating and compelling,
which is folk music. It's all about the storytelling. Anyway, keep doing it. We need you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've loved it, and we'll let you play us out with Dark Eyed Molly.
long